This weekend began just like any other Saturday. Hank woke up later than usual, and he gave his wife of 17 years a morning kiss. She grumbled, "Hank, let me sleep. I can't catch a break with you at night or in the morning, and the girls are probably awake by now." Hank replied, "You're right. They're grown-ups. They won't barge into our bedroom. Let me sleep." Hank got out of bed, put on a robe, and headed to the shower. On his way, he heard some noise and commotion in their eldest daughter Alice's room. He realized that Gwen, her sister, was pulling her out of bed, so he left them be. After freshening up, he dressed and made his way to the kitchen. His daughters, having had enough of waiting, were already sitting at the table. Alice asked, "Are we having breakfast today? Are you hungry? We still have to go to school." Hank responded, "Why? I don't know. You girls are on New Year's vacation. You're going to Grandma's." Alice inquired, "And you're on vacation, and you have a long weekend. It's all Mom's decision." Hank suggested, "You can make your own breakfast." Gwen added, "We could, but Mom won't let us. She thinks we'd mess up the pans and burn everything. All she knows how to make is scrambled eggs." Hank asked, "Do you want oatmeal or semolina porridge like they have in England?" Alice said, "Oatmeal, please, sir." Hank smiled. "Or in this case, oatmeal, miss. Daddy, we'll leave the oats for the horses." Hank instructed, "Make semolina without lumps. Done and done. Now go wash your face and brush your teeth. The porridge will be ready in 15 minutes. Hank quickly prepared breakfast for his daughters. Meanwhile, Judy came out of the bedroom and went into the bathroom. The daughters sat down to eat, and Judy soon returned, her hair neatly combed. Hank looked at his wife, dressed in his shirt, and even after all these years, she still excited him. He recognized her beauty, even though every man has his own idea of what's beautiful in a woman. He loved her, but there was a significant barrier between them. Judy took her seat at the table and said to her daughters, "Finish your meal and get ready slowly. Today, Daddy will take you to your grandmother's." Alice protested, "Mom, you promised we'd go to the ski center for a week. We've already prepared our ski gear, and we wanted to celebrate New Year's Eve together." Judy replied, "Girls, in life, we don't always get what we want, but we'll definitely go to the ski center for spring break when there's no more snow. Or should we go to Palmer? They say there's year-round snow in the mountains. Now finish up and get ready." Hank didn't like the idea of sending the kids to his mother-in-law, especially after the deception about the trip they were preparing for. He sensed a cooling in their relationship, which coincided with the arrival of Richard, the new commercial director at Judy's workplace. Hank knew Judy had known Richard from university, but she hadn't mentioned her new boss to him. It worried him, but he trusted that his wife would resist the temptation of an affair with Richard. He considered meeting Richard and talking to him, but he decided it would only worsen his relationship with Judy. Nevertheless, he kept a close eye on his wife. To his knowledge, nothing had happened between them except some light flirting. Judy's decision to send the children to her parents today meant something was about to happen during the long New Year's weekend, and she would likely share it with them. He was prepared for this conversation and kept a recorder ready to understand what she would say. As it started, his tears dried and his heart grew firm. He saw his wife potentially tearing their family apart. His priority was to keep his daughters safe. Hank knew that a conversation was coming today. Kira had already warned him about it. What Judy didn't know was that before the conversation began, Hank went to the bathroom, washed his hands, turned on the recorder, and concealed it in his breast pocket. Then, he returned to the kitchen and sat at the table. Judy remained silent for a minute. Then she looked at Hank, smiled briefly, and her smile disappeared. With a serious tone, she declared, "Hank, there's something you and I need to talk about right now." Her words left no doubt that Hank wouldn't like this conversation. He didn't let it get to him and looked away from his food, asking, "Is something wrong?" "Hank, nothing is wrong. You know I love you. I've loved you and only you for years. You've been an amazing lover, husband, and a great father to our girls. I want to grow old with you, and maybe even die on the same day. What's stopping us? I'm a trained sociologist from our university, but only a few of us actually work in that field. Those who do use population surveys and data analysis to understand what's happening in society, identify the causes of negative issues, and offer suggestions for improvement. While I work in marketing, I'm involved in marketing research. Nevertheless, I keep a close eye on all the latest sociological developments. Judy, everything seems a bit unclear and complicated. Can you give me the gist of your question? I've read about what leads to marriage problems and want to reduce the chances of anything going wrong in our relationship. What could go wrong for us? We should be as proactive as possible to avoid common pitfalls that can lead to failed marriages. Judy, it seems like you've been reading some convoluted ideas from someone trying to grab attention. I don't buy into these sociological conclusions at all. Can you tell me what this nonsense is all about? Judy snorted and declared, Hank, I'm quite serious. I'm concerned about our family, the possibility of us drifting apart. Our actions today might lead to distance between us and eventually end our relationship. So, tell me, what should we do? I'm not a sociologist. Maybe we should see a psychologist. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I believe we need a break from our marriage. We should explore our own natures and experiences with other people and places. This way, when we come back together, we'll have a broader perspective to support our relationship. How long should this break last? A month? A year? No, I think a 2-week holiday weekend would suffice. Is that why the kids are going to your mom's instead of the ski resort? We could have sent them to your parents' place, but I'd already made plans with my mom. So, you're telling me that you and your lover concocted this whole sociological theory just to get my consent for a long weekend with your lover? Judy's suggestion left Hank completely stunned. Her bold proposal was shocking, though not entirely surprising, given his suspicions. Nevertheless, her words hurt him deeply. Judy, still not sure what you're getting at, Hank asked, Can you clarify? I have no idea who you're talking about as a lover. I know you may not like it, but you'll see that nothing will change between us. I'll make sure you're happy when we reunite. Yes, it's selfish, but I have my reasons. I want to grow old with you. You may not understand that now, but you will, and you'll apologize. You don't even know who the lover is. I'm talking about your new commercial director, Richard. You had a passionate affair with him back in college, and only when he got tired of you did he break it off. After that, you quickly moved on to me. Not a word was said to me about your former classmate becoming your boss. And you're wrong about a lot of other things, too. What am I mistaken about? You're wrong to think that nothing will change. Everything will change, or rather, it has already changed. What has changed? Your attitude toward me and our kids has changed. Everything in our family is changing today. Hank, I love you, and I don't know what you're imagining. I still love you. I don't know how you'll explain our divorce to your parents or to Alice and Gwen. What will they think of their parents' divorce? Hank, what are you talking about? We're not getting divorced, and our parents don't need to be involved in our personal affairs. Sociology is a precise science, and you don't need to fit our situation into some theory you and your lover came up with. I can see that you're overcomplicating things, so I'll postpone it. You take the girls, come back, and we'll sit down to work things out. Judy, we're not resolving anything. I'm simply leaving, but you can't do this to me. I can, and I will. I won't do what you suggested. My decision to divorce was spontaneous. I just decided it now, Hank. But I said I was calling it off. Yes, you did. And then you said that when I got back, we'd sit down and talk about it. So, you're going to enjoy your free long weekend? As I drive the girls around, you can consult with your Richard. Alice came into the kitchen and announced, Daddy, we're ready to go. Girls, I'll be ready in 5 minutes. Hank quickly dressed, grabbed his laptop, slung on his backpack, and without saying goodbye to his wife, headed downstairs. He started the car, waited for it to warm up a bit, and then the girls hopped into the back seat, and they drove off. Judy watched them from the window. Bewildered, Hank cautiously merged onto the main road. The atmosphere in the car remained silent. Finally, Alice spoke. Daddy, Grandma lives on the other side of the road. I know, dear, but you were promised a ski lodge, and that's where we're going now. We'll figure out where to stay. Dad, are you and Mom getting a divorce? Why would you say that, Dad? We overheard you guys arguing in the kitchen today, and I'm on your side. Aren't you, Gwen? I'm on Dad's side, too. But where are we going to live? Girls, we'll stay at my mom's house. I'll drop you off at school, pick up your books and clothes. For now, let's put all these worries aside and enjoy our vacation. You deserve it. Judy glanced away from the car, took out her phone, and dialed Richard, who picked up immediately. Richard, it's Judy. I've got a problem. No worries. I'm alone. Has your husband left yet? He's leaving tonight. He just went to the store. He's probably on his way. What's going on? He didn't react as we expected. He didn't believe me. Who are you referring to? My husband. I offered him the 2-week separation we talked about. And did he agree? Turns out he's aware of your past and our connection from university. He's talking about getting a divorce. That's not good. It's going to cause a major uproar. It'll reach the office gossip mill, and eventually, Kira will hear about it. Kira? I'm not interested in divorcing my wife. You've never been interested, have you? Tell me. So, what do I do now? Is your husband back already? No, he still has to drop the girls off at my parents' and then return. I'm sure he'll come home and he's not leaving. Tell him you've decided there's no temporary separation. I did. He didn't believe me. He thought I'd convince him to go along with it when he got back. When will he be here? I think it'll take him 3 or 4 hours. That's our plan then. Tell him you've made your decision and there's no separation. Right now we need to let his anger subside, and we can't let this reach our workplace under any circumstances. Otherwise, it will complicate things. Judy ended the call, feeling relieved with Richard's support. She pondered the situation, and recalling the old saying about the way to a man's heart, decided to set up the table and avoid the trouble of cooking. She got dressed and went to a cafe, ordering some takeout. She also brought a bottle of wine and placed a corkscrew beside it. She set out 2 glasses and heated up the appetizers she'd purchased in the microwave. In the living room, she turned on the TV and settled into an armchair. She wondered if her brief affair with an old flame was worth jeopardizing her family. Now, convincing her husband would be incredibly challenging, and she wasn't sure how much he knew about her relationship with Richard. She probably shouldn't have revealed to her husband that her former classmate had become her boss. She knew he'd find out eventually. As it turned out, Hank knew about her involvement with Richard and that he'd left her. It was true. Richard had vanished from her life and then suddenly reappeared. When Judy learned that he would be their commercial director, she felt an unexpected attraction. She realized it was just a fling, nothing more. Their first one-on-one conversation confirmed it. Richard had told her, "Judy, I've always liked you, but I can't risk ruining my family. Although I'm not ready to cut off contact with you, it must remain very discreet. You're married too, as far as I know." Life had shown her the folly of her decision. Their discussions in the study had hinted at a scientific foundation, but it appeared they had underestimated something. 4 hours had gone by, and Hank hadn't returned. He should have been back by now. Judy called her mom's phone, and though there was a slight delay, her mom answered. "Daughter, I'm here. I just called to check on how you're doing. What's happening?" "It's wintertime out there, and the darkness falls early. We're sitting with Grandpa, and we're having a bit of an argument." "What's the argument about?" "Just the usual, the old man's way. He wanted a drink, and I refused, but he found where I hid the bottle. And you? How are you? When will you bring your granddaughter to visit?" Judy knew from her mom's conversation that Hank hadn't arrived. After the call with her mom, she phoned Hank's parents again, and it was Hank's father, a retired military officer, who picked up. "Judy, is that you? Come on, be honest. I thought I'd call to see how you're doing. Judy, don't try to deceive me. You're looking for Hank and the kids, right? He warned us about this. So he was at your place?" "No, he didn't come. He called and said you were getting a divorce. That's absurd. We had a misunderstanding, but we're not getting a divorce over something like that. I get that it's not just between you two. It's related to some guy from your work." "What did he say?" "He told me that this morning during breakfast, you proposed a 2-week separation. When he didn't agree, you said you'd cancel it but discuss it when he returned. Is that what happened?" "No. Hank said he's had enough of discussions, and he's decided on a divorce. He's gone to sort it out and won't be back. Although he assumed you were still at home waiting for him, ruffling his feathers. But I don't have any dates planned." "Judy, that's not true either. Hank knows about the man you're seeing and when. I suggested he drive up there and figure it out in person, but he said, 'Dad, I'm not interested. I have daughters, and they're on my side.' Where did he go? He didn't tell us. We were so upset that we didn't even ask. If he calls, tell him he misunderstood everything. I did my best for our family, but now I see that I did something wrong. I don't know my daughter. We've been together with my wife for a century, and even in the toughest times, We never thought of separation. Who put these absurd thoughts in your head? And if you love another man, why torment everyone? If you're ready for a lover to run away from your husband and children, just pack your bags and leave. Don't ruin life for yourself and others. Hank will get over it, and maybe he'll be better off. He's not an old or unattractive man, and the girls will be fine with him. What are you talking about? There will be no divorce. That's your opinion. I know my son, and you don't seem to know him. I just need to explain everything to him, and he'll realize he was wrong. Whatever. He'll call. I'll tell him. Judy called Richard's phone, and a woman answered unexpectedly. I'm here. Excuse me, I'm looking for Richard. Who are you? My name is Judy. We work together. Oh, I know. Let me tell you, honey, I kicked him out. Don't call him. He doesn't have a phone. Is something wrong? You don't know? I've moved to 2 different cities because of this cheater and womanizer, but I'm not leaving this new house. Where's Richard? How should I know? I kicked him out. Maybe he's at your place. He doesn't know where I live. Why would he be at my place? He knows everything, including your address. He's with you at work. But he wasn't the only one involved with you and had plans. He intended to meet all of you while I was on vacation. Except I wasn't going anywhere. Hank and his daughters were going to a ski resort out of town. He knew some of the staff there, called one of them on the way. It turned out that Mark, a former classmate of his, went up the mountain and became the director of the base. After explaining the situation to him, Hank asked to accommodate him and the girls for the winter vacation. Mark replied, Hank, anything for you. A house for 3 people? That's a dream come true. Great. I have a company waiver and 3 cabins available. I'll reserve one for you. Excellent, but I have a request. If someone calls, don't confirm that I'm with my daughters on this base vacation. All right, I'll reserve the cabin for you. When are you coming? We're about an hour and a half away. I can't drive too fast. The roads are slippery. Okay, I'll set the table in your cabin at the entrance. Just tell them you're here to see Mark, and they'll direct you. An hour and a half later, they reached the ski lodge's gates. They informed the gatekeeper that they were there to meet with Mark, who directed them where to go. There was a sheltered parking lot near the lodge, and Hank parked the car there. They took their belongings and entered the house. Mark was waiting at the table. Seeing them arrive, he said, Hurry up. Everything on the table is getting cold. You're always in a rush. Let my girls freshen up, wash their hands, and explore a bit. There are 2 bedrooms upstairs and 1 on the ground floor. Alice and Gwen, taking their things, headed upstairs. They had already changed into their tracksuits and found the room satisfactory. Hank's daughters were growing up and looking good. Where's Judy? Why hasn't she come? That's a separate story. I'll tell you later. Let's toast to our meeting. You're eager and yet slow. The friends raised their glasses in a toast and reminisced, occasionally interrupted by Hank's daughter's questions. Eventually, Gwen asked Mark about other entertainment options at the ski lodge. Right now, there's a dance party in the hall. We didn't bring anything for dancing. There's no dress code. You can come as you are. So, no specific dress rules? Can we go too? Of course. I'll call one of my staff and they'll take you there. Mark made the call, and a few minutes later a young employee arrived to escort Alice and Gwen. After they left, Mark asked Hank about his wife. Decided to get a divorce. Why would you do that? Remember when I used to date her? There were rumors that she was seeing someone else. Yeah, there were rumors, but nothing concrete. Well, this guy from out of town shows up, and he ends up becoming the commercial director at Judy's workplace. They started an emotional affair, which I didn't catch at first. He's got a wife, Kira, who's decided to divorce her husband and spilled the beans to me, and today, it all happened. She cheated on you? No, they decided that for the long weekend we shouldn't vacation together, supposedly to strengthen our marriage as we age. I've always been skeptical of sociologists. Sociology is when people who don't understand society conduct research and then try to impose the supposed laws they've discovered, which are often just made up. You're right about that. Sounds like they made them up for me. So, what have you decided? When I talked to her, I realized that continuing our life would be unbearable, so I decided on a divorce. What's next? Nothing. I need to figure out how to proceed. A group of lawyers is coming here tomorrow. They have an office downtown. I'll ask them for help. Come on, pour a drink. Alice and Gwen returned from the dance around 11 p.m. A ski center staff member had been attentive to Mark's guests and escorted the girls back to the lodge. Hank prepared a late supper for the girls, and they shared a meal together before heading to their rooms. Hank sat on his bed, struggling to hold back tears. It had been a challenging day for him, and he couldn't forget everything that Judy had done. He turned on the tape recorder and listened to the recording, reaffirming that his decision was the right one in the current circumstances. Judy had never waited for her husband, and she had no idea where he might have gone with their daughters. But Hank remembered that he had said promises should be kept, and they had promised their children a trip to the ski lodge, so that's where he had gone, and he suspected that reservations had been made in advance. She powered on the computer Hank typically used, but her extensive search yielded nothing. She couldn't find any information about ski lodges in the area he had been researching. The next morning, Hank woke up to a knock on his door. He called out, "Come in," and his daughters rushed into his room full of energy and excitement. "Daddy, wake up. Let's have breakfast and go skiing on the hill. Then we can go ice skating." "There's an ice skating rink here?" "Yes, there is." "And where do we have breakfast?" "At the cafe. Wash up and I'll be ready in 5 minutes." They headed to the cafe for breakfast. After changing into their skiing attire, they rented skis and took the ski lift up the mountain. They enjoyed skiing until lunchtime. In the afternoon, they returned to the cafe after changing. There, they ran into Mark and his wife. Mark mentioned that the company he had discussed had arrived, including a divorce specialist. "Meet me in my office today. I have a computer and printer, everything you need. I'll take your girls, my wife, and her sister to the ice rink tonight. If you don't mind, we'll meet at my place. The girls want to go dancing again. We'll join them. We'll dance and then return to our cabin. And don't forget, tomorrow is New Year's Eve. We need to prepare for the festivities." Everything was set. After lunch, Fyodor and Hank went to Mark's office. A lawyer soon arrived, and they discussed the situation. Maria explained the current legal landscape to Hank, which he was not very familiar with. She advised him against making rash decisions about their apartment, saying, "Keep in mind that your girls will grow up and have their own families. They will need their own space. If you move into the apartment with them now, there might be a new husband in the future, which could complicate matters." "But I can't imagine living in the same apartment as her." "Try to envision it and consider proposing a partition. First, explain to your wife that you'll be filing for divorce in court. When will the paperwork be ready? No rush. The courts have their holiday weekends too. I have my laptop with me. I'll prepare it and we can print it later. Additionally, you can reach out to me at my office or hire me to represent you in court. I like the last option." Hank and his daughters celebrated the new year with Mark, his wife, her sister, and a group of lawyers in the ski lodge's large hall. Other vacationers joined in, and it was a lively night filled with music, fun, and dancing. In the early hours of the morning, Hank returned to the cabin with his daughters, who were exhausted and ready for sleep. Hank rejoined the company, and after the main hall festivities ended, they gathered in his cabin. They sat around the fireplace and later retired to their respective cabins. The following days went as planned, with more skiing, ice skating, and dancing. In the evenings, Mark asked Hank, "How are you holding up?" Hank replied, "You know, apart from the daytime fun, there were nights when I shed a lot of tears. But today, I feel more prepared for what's ahead than ever." The day came when Hank and his daughters packed up for their return journey. Hank had a conversation with them, emphasizing the importance of not losing their apartment. They made a stop at the mall for groceries and returned home as darkness fell. Alice and Gwen immediately set about rearranging their rooms, with Gwen moving her things to Alice's room. At that moment, Judy entered and asked, "What are you two doing?" "We're turning Gwen's room into Dad's room, and we're sharing one room." Judy questioned this decision, and Gwen explained, "That's what Dad said." Judy remained dissatisfied and warned, "I won't tolerate any of your boyfriends in the house. You can hang out anywhere you want. Just so you know, I'm filing for divorce." With their room changes complete, the girls got ready for school. Hank started preparing dinner and breakfast for the morning. Judy walked in and tried to initiate a conversation, but Hank remained unresponsive. Judy then entered the girls' room and asked if they wanted to talk to her. The girls expressed that they hadn't missed her, and Hank instructed them to stay out of his way. For the rest of the week, Hank, Alice, and Gwen lived separately from Judy, with Hank locking the doors to the rooms they occupied. Hank cooked for himself and his daughters, deliberately ignoring Judy's presence. On Friday evening, a young woman delivered a registered letter with notice to Judy. It was a summons, and attached to it was a statement of claim. After reading the contents, Judy rushed into the kitchen in tears, asking Hank why he wanted a divorce and expressing her hope that things could work out. Hank advised her to consult with a lawyer and discuss the matter with him. Judy mentioned Richard's disappearance, and Hank suggested she reach out to him for advice. Judy insisted that she had no one, but Hank remained unmoved. The girls had already eaten and left for their room without a word to Judy. In her desperation, Judy continued to plead with Hank, declaring her love for him and their daughters. Hank replied, "What does my love have to do with it? I loved you, but that was until I found out you were cheating on me with your old boyfriend, someone you didn't even tell me about. I realized it was foolish to love you. You wanted to talk? Okay, go ahead. Tell me about your phony weekend. What did you plan to do? How are you going to spend it? It's been a while since I heard your marvelous sociological theories from your buddy. Enlighten me with your new stories. And how did you spend your weekend? Did you have fun? I thought it was great that your buddy disappeared once more. So, let's talk about it." Hank finished dinner and began gathering the dishes in the sink. Hearing the clatter of dishes, Alice came into the kitchen and offered to do the dishes. Hank refused her help and suggested she go upstairs to tidy her room. He assured her that he would do the dishes and take care of ironing her clothes, which were already dry. Judy, feeling entirely ignored during the conversation and sensing that Hank didn't want to engage with her, became emotional and went to her room. In the meantime, Hank promptly washed the dishes, turned off the lights, and headed to his room. He noticed a pile of laundry that he had washed during those days, waiting to be ironed. Before going to bed, Hank made his way to the kitchen, where he found Judy sitting in the darkness. Upon seeing him, she said, "Hank, none of this was planned. It just happened. I was seeing Richard at university and then he suddenly disappeared. No, I wasn't pursued or pressured into it. Very few people knew we were dating, and hardly anyone knew he broke up with me. Out of the blue, he appeared at our workplace. We began to interact due to work-related activities, and one day he asked me to have lunch. At first it was just lunch, nothing more. Then something changed. However, he made it clear from the start that there should be no suspicious encounters, and everything had to be carefully planned to avoid our spouses finding out. I reluctantly agreed, thinking it was a fling with no future. This temporary separation was meant to be our first and only date. So, is that why you concocted this story you told me? I didn't realize it would go this far, and I agreed to Richard's proposal. Hank, can't you see that he was just using you? Can you really be so naive? No, it's not that. It's been a while since you've complimented me on my looks, my clothes, or my modern hair. But don't put all of this on me. Just because I haven't been telling you every day how great you look doesn't justify having an affair. Are you saying you're willing to have an affair with anyone who gives you compliments? Over the next few days, Hank prepared for a meeting with child welfare officials. According to his lawyer Maria, their opinion would carry significant weight in court, although the children's views were also taken into consideration. Hank had a lot to handle in a short time, and at night, when he was alone, he found it hard to sleep. His thoughts were consumed by the themes of love and betrayal. The most important person in his life had betrayed him, leaving him with a mix of anger and pain. All he wanted now was a divorce, even though it seemed far from possible. He had lost trust in Judy, and their marriage was beyond repair. He also had to think about the children, who had distanced themselves from their mother. During a conversation, Judy argued that, for the sake of the children, they should stay married and try to make their marriage work. Hank's response was, "I believe our children need to know that their parents love them unconditionally. Our daughters are not responsible for what happened. They're old enough to form their own opinions about us, and you need to understand that I haven't spoken ill of you to them. They formed their judgments based on what they overheard when you were criticizing me about our temporary separation for a long weekend." Hank continued, "Judy, I'm proud of our kids. They quickly grasped what was happening between us and your lover. They discussed it among themselves, and I'm sure their decisions were not made lightly. When we left, they were extremely upset with you. Speaking with them changed my plans for the long weekend and the course of my life. The girls know more than you might think. Judy asked, "Do the girls hate me?" Hank replied, "For someone with a degree in sociology, you show surprising understanding. I didn't expect that. Yes, they know their mother was unfaithful, and yes, they are angry with you because of it. You can try to mend your relationship with them, of course. But, as a sociologist, you studied the field of psychology related to the study of human behavior patterns and activities. You should remember what adolescence is, occurring between the ages of 10, 11, and 15, 16. It's known as a transitional phase where children transition from childlike behavior to more adult-like behavior. They undergo significant physiological changes. It's hard to predict how you'll be able to connect with them. The time leading up to their court appearance was filled with pleas and appeals. Eventually, they faced each other in the courtroom for a preliminary session. They were given some time to try and reconcile their differences. When that period ended, Hank proposed that Judy sign a child custody agreement as part of their divorce. Under this agreement, the girls would live with him. After hearing everything, Judy declared, "I won't sign any agreement." Hank cautioned her, "Then I'll have to bring this matter before the court. The court will hear me, talk to the girls, and make a decision. It's unlikely to be in your favor." Judy responded, "You can't be so sure. Court decisions can be appealed." Hank concluded, "Well, good luck with that." Judy admitted, "Hank, I know I've been foolish. I realize what I was doing was wrong. Please understand, I love you, and I'll never have Richard in my life again. You've decided to replace him with someone else." Hank responded, "Well, that's your personal choice. It's your life. Don't try to blame me. You're a sociologist. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a lot on my plate. If you do decide to sign the agreement, it should be done in front of a notary. As a general rule, an agreement to determine child residence does not require mandatory notarization. This distinguishes it from alimony agreements, which hold the power of a court order. However, it is recommended to draft and notarize the document. Thanks, but she doesn't want to sign anything, and I don't need her to. It's just that she won't get anything." Consequently, the court's deadline for the parties to reconcile had expired. Judy made desperate attempts to reconcile with her daughters, but her efforts were unsuccessful. After school, the daughters started their computer science classes, returning home with their father. Following a light snack, usually in their father's room, they settled down to do their homework. Meanwhile, Hank prepared dinner and breakfast for the following morning. On one particular day, the child welfare authorities paid them a visit. They spoke with the girls, examined their room, and compiled a report. Subsequently, they attended the court hearing on time. Hank, accompanied by the girls, addressed some questions with their lawyer. Judy entered the courtroom, took her seat. She didn't have a lawyer, but had sought advice from counseling and divorced friends, fully understanding the irreparable state of her marriage. During the trial, she answered the court's questions briefly, with simple yes or no responses. At the end of the trial, Judy declared that she was relinquishing her share of the apartment in favor of her daughters, providing a deed of gift. The judge noted she had already taken her personal belongings from the apartment. What remained would be removed within a week, and she requested a court recess to sign the child support agreement proposed by Hank. After the recess, she added, "I am willing to voluntarily pay child support to Hank because I understand that the court's decision may not be in my favor." Hank responded, "To ensure transparency regarding the money I receive as child support, I propose the defendant open a separate account for each of her daughters and transfer the funds there. I believe they'll need that money when they come of age." The judge heard both parties and clarified that alimony and the division of the apartment weren't part of the initial claim, so the court wouldn't address them. As for the child support agreement and the divorce, these issues would be decided. The court recessed to make a decision. Eventually, Hank and Judy left the courthouse, officially divorced. The girls, who had been excused from the courtroom after their hearing, were found sitting on a bench near a bus stop, enjoying ice cream despite the cold. Seeing them, Hank inquired, "Girls, what are you doing? It's freezing outside." The girls explained they had brought the ice cream home and believed it was harmless to have in the winter and could even soothe a sore throat. There was a bit of paradox to it. Hank questioned why 19 was chosen as the age for them to access the money. The girls responded, "That's what we decided." Judy honored her promise and left the apartment. She moved in with her parents, where she cared for her ailing mother. Hank agreed to let her visit her daughters once a week, although Alice and Gwen were hesitant about it. On these visits, Judy spent time with her daughters at their residence. Epilogue: Hank spent a long time on his own. On New Year's Eve, he and his grown-up daughters vacationed at a ski resort, often in the company of Mark's wife's sister, Katya. They started to develop a relationship, but Hank wasn't in a rush to make any commitments. For him, the most important focus in life remained his daughters, whom he continued to nurture and guide. Katya didn't have any children of her own, but she got along well with Alice and Gwen. Although there was some initial jealousy on the part of the girls, Hank treated Judy respectfully, allowing her to visit their daughters and maintaining communication. However, they were no longer a couple or friends. Alice and Gwen matured without causing difficulties. Hank, who surrounded his daughters with love and care, saw the arrival of Katya as something that brought their family closer together. Judy experienced a challenging year. Her parents passed away one after the other. Hank helped her with the funerals, but their shared grief didn't mend their relationship. For a considerable time, Judy lived independently, with her daughters as her primary social circle. Eventually, she began dating a lonely widower from a neighboring house. Richard, her former partner, never reappeared in town. His whereabouts remained unknown, even to his ex-wife, Kira, who had remarried soon after their divorce.